Randy?
No, what's a Zoom?
It will ask your permission to start recording.
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions that you may have?
No.
No? Well, let's begin with this basic course. Okay, so because of your background, I'm not sure, so you may not be so familiar with the Old Testament, right? Not that
Depends.
much.
Whatever I was taught.
Okay, so let
Like
me
I
just
can
share with
probably,
you.
I can't
Uh-huh.
name all the books in the Old Testament. Probably I can get most of them from memory.
Okay, so let me just share these slides. All the slides will be in Spanish, but I will just do my best to translate them, okay?
That's
So,
okay. I can learn my Spanish that way.
yeah, also it works for your Spanish. So these whole sessions, it's not predication from the pulpit or as a pastor or as a priest. It's just for studying the Bible. So you will have a grade on this course. Okay, this grading will be 10% your attendance, but there's no way you cannot attend to the meetings because you are the only one. Uh, 10%, as I told you, this is meant for a group session. So
Yep.
10% will be your participation, but there are no other student than you, so you will have to participate all the time. And it's okay if you don't know something. Actually, I'm assuming that you don't know a lot of stuff from the Bible. So if it's okay if you tell me I don't know what you're asking me, okay, and that's fine. 20% will be some manual works that you will do, some schemes, some diagrams, some just synoptic tables that I will ask you to do. That will be 20% of your final grading. And we will do a final evaluation, a final exam, okay? That accounts for the 60% of the whole grading, okay, for the course. So at the end, we will have it's 160 questions from the Bible, what we have read, studied on the classes, so it will be easy. And actually, I will just tell you that it doesn't matter your final grading. You might just fail the whole course, and then that's okay. It will not change your relationship with God. And actually, the final goal of these whole classes are to improve your relationship with God and the scriptures. Okay, so that's the main goal. So it doesn't matter if you fail, or actually, it doesn't matter also if you have an A plus in your classes. It doesn't matter because the most important thing is that you have an intimate relationship with God and the Bible. Okay, so that's why we are following the whole Bible. So, at the classes, I tend to do this initial evaluation just to know how the group is on knowledge on the Bible. But we will skip this one because I'm assuming that you don't know a lot of the answers here. For example, do you know what the word Abram means?
What the word Abram means.
Abram, yeah.
Who Abram is or
No,
what?
what the word means.
Oh, Abram? No, I don't know. You know, I wouldn't know off the top of my head now.
Okay, this is question number 2. It's 15 questions here. Do you know who is the firstborn of Abraham?
That's a good question. I don't recall if it's Cain or Abel. Is it?
No,
Were they born with him?
that would be Adam,
Adam. Oh, okay.
not Abraham.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just 15 questions that I do in the beginning of the
Yep.
class, but we will skip this one because I'm assuming that because you told me that you haven't read a lot of the Old Testament, these are mostly Old Testament things. And the most important thing is why we are starting with the Old Testament is because it's connected completely with the New Testament. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very important to understand the Old Testament in order to understand the New Testament. Okay, so well, let's skip these 15 questions because it's names and what do they mean and dates also. So we will skip all of this and let's start right away with the important part. So the Bible, I don't know if you already knew, the Bible, it was originally written in the Hebrew language.
which
But
makes,
right now, neither of us are Hebrew, right?
no,
So,
not at all.
and actually, you might know this. So, Milagros is from Colombia, right?
No, Ecuador.
Ecuador. Okay, so in Ecuador, the culture is very different than your own culture, right? You
Yeah,
have to deal with different cultures, and the way of thinking of another person is way different in food, relationships. Everything is way different from one country to another. And the Bible was meant to go for the Hebrew people. So a lot of things on the Bible, we don't get them because we haven't been raised in a Hebrew culture.
right.
So that's why when studying the Bible, we have to understand that. And that's why a lot of the things that we are going to share in the classes are from the Hebrew perspective, okay? Trying to understand the Hebrew thought of what we already know, okay? There has been a lot of investigations at how do they think, how did they think on that time? What do they mean with this or that expression in Hebrew, what we call idioms, right? It's an idiom where you have to think the way they think, so you understand what it is written. Okay, so there are four important things of why do we study the Hebrew perspective of the Bible. Number one is because of the thought. The thought reason number one is thought, because the thought sometimes is completely different than our thinking. I don't know, but uh, people from America think in a Greek and Latin way, mostly Greek, mostly Greek. And a lot of things that we think right now come from the Greek culture, not the Hebrew culture. And the Greek culture is completely different than the Hebrew culture. Okay, so let's, I don't know if you have played sometime, how do you call this? In English, I don't know, where you act without speaking a movie or a character. Do you know how is this game called?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
That I'm actually going to act something, and you have to guess what I'm acting, right? This is
Oh,
a
kind of
game.
anticipation.
I don't know. It's a game that mostly all families in the world kind of play this game. That I have to act something, and as I'm acting, you have to
Oh,
guess
like
which
charade.
character or which movie. Oh, charade, yeah. So let me just play with you a small charade right here. Okay. So, Randy, what if I told you that you have to act the word future? Future. How would you act the word future?
Oh, that's an interesting one for sure. This future is a place where you're going, not.
How would you act that? How would you would let me know that you're acting the word future?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would go.
Maybe pointing in that direction. Would that work? Maybe just ahead, trying to say that's ahead of me, right? The
Hmm.
future is ahead of me. What
Well,
if I
because
told
if you're
you,
just acting and you can't use words, then it's more difficult. Yes,
yeah, what if I told you past, to act
that
the word past? It will be on my back, right?
behind and that you can't change.
Exactly. From a Hebrew perspective, this is different. If we would have a Hebrew person here and we tell them, can you act for us the word future? They will go behind them. The future will go behind them. And if they act the past word, the past, they will go ahead and they will point to right ahead of them. And you say, hey, wait a minute. No, that's future and that's past. And they will go, no, that's future and that's past. And if we ask them, why are you telling me this? Because it's the other way around. No, they will tell us, listen to me, listen to me. This is my future because I haven't seen it already. I haven't seen it. So it's behind
Hmm.
me. I haven't seen them. And my past, I have seen it. So that's in front of me. So this is the other way around, as you and me have been used to think. Okay, so the Hebrew thought is way different, sometimes the other way around of what we have been told. So we will find in the Bible some things that you can read them, but they mean completely different that we have been told. Okay, so this is very important. So this will be challenging your own thinking about Bible things. These whole classes will just challenge your own thoughts. Okay, sometimes you think, oh, I was thinking the other way. But the Bible says, and from a Hebrew perspective, is the other way around. Okay, so that's reason number one of why we are, and you can just corroborate all this. You can just dig deeper into what I'm sharing, and I will ask you to investigate what I'm telling you. So it's not something that I'm making up, right? Okay, so that will be reason number one, the way of thinking. The way of thinking from a Hebrew perspective can be sometimes the other way around. That's what we think. Reason number two, and that is happening right now, the translation from the Hebrew to the Greek to the Latin to the English to the Spanish. So it's been translation over translation over translation. Most of the concepts we will miss only because of the translation. If I tell you a joke that makes sense in Spanish, but I translate it directly into the English, you won't laugh.
No.
So why are you laughing? I don't understand. I don't get the joke, because this is an Spanish expression, and it happens with the English too. If you try to translate,
trying to be sarcastic, right?
Yeah, you will understand.
Sarcasm in one language is completely different than another.
And sometimes we just have games of words that make sense in your original language, but it doesn't make sense if you translate them. So with the translation happens also the same. Sometimes we stick just, this says in English, yes, but that doesn't say in Hebrew. So the translation misses a lot of the concepts only because of the translation, and there's no way around it. So some concepts we will just study them directly in the Hebrew language. Okay, and I will share with you free tools that you can just go online and you can just investigate by yourself. Okay, so you can just be sure that what we are sharing, it is as it is. Okay, so here in Spanish says the translation of a text will limit its comprehension. Some concept will just be missed in the translation. And I share here an example. I don't know if you have seen this. This movie is in English is Home Alone, but the translation into Spanish, it doesn't make sense, because the translation is Mi pobre angelito, my poor little angel. It doesn't make sense. Why on earth did they translate it Home Alone into My Poor Little Angel? I don't know. I don't know if it was for marketing purposes, just to, I don't know why, but they translated as My Poor Little Angel. Doesn't make sense. Some things in our Bibles are translated as this. It doesn't make sense why the translator made this translation. The word doesn't make any sense. Okay, so a lot of things we will go directly into the Hebrew to check on them and to just grasp the understanding of this specific word. Okay, reason number three. Can you tell me in this picture what grabs your attention the most?
Well, at first you see the deer. Well, actually, first you see the big tree on the left. Then I see the deer, and it's looking like he's looking at you.
Okay, so
wondering.
That's right. That's how we think. The thing that grabs our attention most is number one, the deer. But if you were Hebrew, the thing that grabs first your attention is the wood. that you are in a wood. This is a picture from the wood, and it happens to have a tree, and it also happens to have a deer. Deer would come last. Okay, so it's way here's it. The
You look at the
focus.
big picture first.
Exactly, the big picture first, and then you go into the detail. Our way of thinking, from you and me, is that we go first to the detail, and then we go to the whole picture. Okay, but we have different focus than the Hebrew thought. The Hebrew thought is global, while the Greek is it's pinpointing some things. Okay, first. Okay, that would be reason number 3. On why are we looking the Hebrew perspective of the Bible? And reason number 4, it's actually called perspective. Here says, the Hebrew thought includes, while the Greek and Latin thought excludes. Let me share with you another image. So, the person that is right in the middle, this person here, can you explain to me what is his mood right here?
His what?
His mood.
His mood?
Yeah.
Oh, he looks like he's actually talking.
He looks like he's actually talking. Do you know? Can you tell me how might this person be feeling?
Well, because he's wearing the type of jersey he is. He's obviously an athlete, so he's probably looks like he's trying to tell a story.
Oh, but what are this person's feelings? Can you tell? He's
No,
sad. Is
you
he
can't tell from it.
mad?
You can't tell really from it. Well, from a picture, he's just expressive.
It's expressive, right? It's expressive. But can you tell this person is mad?
He looks more
Or
on the happy side
it looks more on the happy side, right? Okay,
because his
let me
eyes go
change.
wide and
Let me change the picture. So picture number 2. Can you tell me what would be the feeling of the person in the middle of the picture?
well, based on the other people's whatever he's telling them, they're not happy with what he's saying. So his expression may not, he may still be excited and happy about something, but they could be just jealous of what he's saying.
Can you tell this person in the middle of the picture is mad or sad?
No.
He looks, can you tell
Similar.
that he may look happy also?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Greek thinking, excluding the people from their background. Okay, from a Hebrew perspective, right here in this picture number 1, this person is considered to be happy because everyone else is happy. In picture number 2, this person is mad because everyone else in the picture is mad. So can you tell we are excluding the person out of the context, but in the Hebrew perspective, it is included in the context. Okay, yeah, maybe this person made something that made everyone mad, but he is also mad because it's included in the whole. Okay.
Yeah, when you look at like the global side.
The global side, yeah. So that's why we are going to understand some of the things in the Bible, including everyone else in the picture, okay, from some verses and some passages. Okay, so well, let's start to read the Bible. Oh, this is another example that I give in the classes. Can you tell which tacos are the best in the world? Some people say Taco Bell. Are you familiar with Taco Bell?
Yeah, they're a chain related to KFC.
Yeah. So what do you think if I tell you that Taco Bell are the best tacos in the world?
Well, everyone
I
has.
understand that I'm Mexican.
I know. It's a saying. Everyone has their opinion, this is a fast food joint, so I would not say that they're the best. They're meant for profit, not for taste.
Exactly. Actually, the profit that Taco Bell makes is so amazing. They sell billions of tacos every year, and the profit is so high that they might look that they are the best tacos in the world because of the profit that they make. Okay, so this is very important because no Mexican will ever tell you that these even are tacos. For a Mexican, this cannot be called a taco. So tacos are way different, no? With salsa and with a lot of things that actually makes a real taco. You cannot say Taco Bell is a real taco. So sometimes this example I use because sometimes we have been told things from the Bible that are like, no, this church is so huge in numbers. There's a lot of people that follow this church or this other church or this, how do you say, denomination. No, these are the Baptists. These are the, who has the real taco? The real taco is only the Bible. You cannot go for a religion or for a denomination because based on their numbers. You have to go if they are consuming real tacos, if they are reading actually the whole Bible from cover to cover. Okay, so that's what we are trying to achieve here. So let's start with class number one. Class number one will be the history of one family. If we would say, what would be the main theme across the Bible? It would be the history of this family. The whole Bible goes and shares the history of this family. So we will just go on this class talking about this family. Who is member of this family? Okay, this will be class number one, and we will just break it up into three subjects. First, we will read about the promise. God makes a lot of promises in the Bible, but he will make one big, huge, and maybe the hugest promise across the Bible. We will just study a little bit about it. Then we will speak of a split or division. This family will just go, split it in two halves. And number three, we will speak about the restoration of this family. Okay, the whole purpose of the whole Bible is to restore the family as it is. Okay, we'll just speak about it in the following maybe 5 or 6 classes. So let's start with the promise. Can you open up your Bible in Genesis chapter 22? Let me also open up my Bible so we can just go about the same text in English. Okay. Genesis 22. Here we are. Okay. Can you go all the way to verse 16, please?
22, 16. Where are we here? 17, 16, 15. Wait a second. Here we are. Okay.
Okay, can you read from verses 16 to 18, please?
16 says, where are we here? And said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your only son, I will surely bless you and make you descendants as numerous as the stars in the skies and the sand in the seashores. Your descendants will take possession of the cities and their enemies, and through your offering, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me.
Okay, so this is a promise that God is making to someone. Do you know who's God making this promise to?
Abraham,
Abraham. This is a promise made to Abraham.
this is just
So,
recently after he was willing to sacrifice his own son.
oh, do you remember the name of his son?
No,
Isaac. Isaac was his son.
Isaac.
Okay, so yeah, he was about to sacrifice Isaac, and an angel of God comes and says, Abraham, stop, don't sacrifice your son. Okay, I know what is in your heart, and because you have done this, it says right here in verse 16, I swear by myself, declares the Lord. So this is a huge thing. This is the only promise in the Bible that God Himself is swearing by Himself. This part actually, I will ask you to highlight it, maybe in your electronic Bible, to highlight it because it's the only promise. So what does it mean? What does it mean to God, the Creator of everything, who has the knowledge of everything, who's everywhere all the time? Why would He swear by Himself? This is important. Why is He swearing? He can do whatever He wants, whenever He wants, to whoever He wants. Why is He swearing this promise to someone? I swear by myself. And you cannot find any other promise in the Bible that God is swearing by Himself. So what we can understand from this promise is that this is going to happen no matter what. This is going to happen no matter what. And then we should pay attention to this promise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here it says that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, here comes a promise, because you have done this, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. So the descendants of Abraham will be outnumbered. Okay, so it will be a lot. Billions of people will come from Abraham. So the whole Bible, the purpose of the whole scripture in Old Testament and New Testament is how is God fulfilling this promise? Because He is swearing by Himself that this will happen no matter what. Okay, and also we should read the rest of the promise. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me. So we should learn a little bit more about Abraham, right? So we have to understand this character, what does it come from, what did he do other than this sacrifice, the willing to sacrifice his own son. So let's start this scheme. In the top middle part of your notes, I will ask you to write the name Abram. Okay, so we'll learn one thing that is very important. In the Hebrew perspective, when you study one character, you have to study their name, because the name is very important, because it will show your fame, your honor, your character, and what are you going to do in the world. So your name is very important. Right now, our name is just how to address someone, right? I know I have to address to you by your name because it's Randy, but I don't know what Randy means, and it doesn't say anything about you. Well, at least for me. and well, my name is Moises. No, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. You just will address to me as Moises, but it doesn't really mean anything. in the Bible, all the names mean something. And this is very important, okay? So we will just split the word Abram in two parts. Ab, which is the first part, Ab, in the Hebrew is father, Ab. You will call your father Ab. And Am, it's a city or a town or a group of people. So Abram will be father of a town or a people or a city. Okay, but I don't know if you knew that it was Abraham's first name. He was first called Abram, but with this promise, God changes the name of Abram to Abraham. That's happening actually in Genesis chapter 17. He says, you will not be longer called Abram. Now you will be called Abraham. So God tends to change people's names because they are changing their character, their personality, their fame, and their purpose in life. Okay, that's why a name in Hebrew, that's why it's so important, the name of a person. And maybe you have heard this expression, the name above all names. Not the name above all names. This is a very important, the most important people in the world would be the name above all names, the honor above all honors, the most famous people above all the famous people. So this is the name of all names. That would be the expression. And well, back to Abraham. Now it's called Abraham. Abraham, it's understood as father of a multitude of people, father of a lot of people. And actually relates directly to this promise, because our Lord told Abraham that because he had done this, all his descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Okay, so this is very important. Do you know where Abraham was from?
Not originally. I don't recall off the top of my head, no.
Okay,
But I know he wandered into the desert as asked, though.
Exactly. His hometown was called Ur. I just wrote it right there on the chat. U-R. It's Ur. Nowadays, this would be on the country of Iraq.
Okay.
He was originally from Iraq, and when he was like 60 something years old, he heard the voice of the Lord, and the voice of the Lord told him, just leave your parents, leave your hometown, and just go directly to the place that I will show you. And he just crosses all this desert in order to reach the town where the Lord showed him. I don't know if you knew, but in the Bible, you can see people crossing deserts, crossing oceans, crossing rivers. This crossing in Hebrew, it's called Ivri. Ivri. Ivri means crossing. And Abraham is told to be the first one that has crossed in order to follow God. Okay, that's called, in Hebrew, it's called Ivri. So that's why we say that Abraham is the first Hebrew. Hebrew means crossing. Okay, so that's what Hebrew means. Okay, crossing something, crossing in order to follow God. So it's like maybe you and me. We have to cross something, maybe thoughts or ways of being, behaviors, and something that the Bible tells us to behave some way. We have to cross from what we have been told as we have been raised in order to follow God. Okay, that would be Ivri. In Hebrew, it's called Ivri or Hebrew. Okay, He was married to someone. Do you know? Remember the name of his wife?
Sarah.
Sarah. Sarah was his wife. And do you remember that if they were able to,
They couldn't conceive, or
they couldn't conceive, right?
they couldn't conceive, and the Lord said that he'll, that she will, but then they got impatient. Or she got impatient, actually.
Do you remember? Do you
He could
remember
wait
what
forever,
happened?
but she got patient and then said, "Here, you use my handmaiden," or whatever she was. I forget her name now.
Yes,
Yeah, so
Agar.
then
Well,
they had, then she conceived, and then all of a sudden, then the Lord got a little upset with them because he didn't wait. And in any case, then Sarah didn't like the whole process because, now all of a sudden there was this child that she said yes, but really in her heart it was no. But
okay. So yeah, the story goes like that. Uh, the thing is that we have to understand the times.
mhm,
God first spoke to Abram when he was about 60. He started promising an offspring to Abraham and to Sarah, of course, when he was 70. And it happened like 20 years. And she couldn't conceive on these 20 years. So 20 years is a lot of time to
mhm.
wait for God to fulfill a promise, right? 20 years is a lot. And as you said, Sarah lost the patience, and she offered her handmaid, whose name was Agar, Agar,
Oh yes, a Hagar.
and
Yeah.
Abraham got Hagar pregnant,
Mhm.
and we have a firstborn of Abraham whose name is Ishmael. Ishmael. So back to the names. Do you know what Ishmael means?
No.
Okay, Ishmael breaks also in two. Ishma, which is the first part of the name. Ishma means to listen, to listen, and El, it's the short abbreviation for Elohim, Elohim, which is what we have been translated to as God. God, Elohim. Whenever the word Elohim comes in your Bible, it's always translated as God. So God listened. Okay, God listened. That's Ishmael. God listened. God will listen.
Mm.
Okay, we will begin with a very important conflict here in the Bible, because
Yeah,
after
using
uh
that as a translation, when you say it says to listen, and then you say else God, that in my mind, that basically kind of says you're not listening to God.
yeah, yeah, and actually this is a very good thing that you brought up, because in Hebrew you have, for one word, you will have two meanings.
Mhm.
One would be the positive side of this word, and the other negative. So whenever you say listen to me, you are implying that you are not listening to me. Okay, so
Exactly.
in
And
Hebrew
that's
you have to think the two ways.
hence the name,
Ishmael,
basically saying you didn't listen to me.
exactly. So Ishmael, yeah, it's inferring that he didn't listen. Okay, so but one day Sarah becomes pregnant, and Sarah was 90 years old when this
Mhm.
happened, and Abraham was 10 years older, so Abraham was 100 years old. So they got pregnant, and they have their firstborn, which we already said his name is Isaac. Isaac. In Hebrew, pronounced something like Yitzhak. Yitzhak. Do you remember the expression of Sarah when she got pregnant, or when she was about to get pregnant?
Mm, no.
Okay, so this one time, God comes to Abraham and says, your wife is to get pregnant 1 year from now. And Sarah was listening to that conversation, and Sarah goes, she was laughing. She was laughing. And God says to Sarah, why did you laugh? And Sarah comes, oh, no, I didn't laugh. Yes, you did. And that's why the name of this son of Abraham is called Yitzhak, because Yitzhak translates as he will laugh. He will laugh. Okay, and actually it's also understood as someone that brings joy, someone that brings joy. So you will laugh. That's Yitzhak. Okay, so here we'll begin with the one of the big conflicts here in the Bible, because who is going to inherit all the properties of Abraham?
Isaac.
But here comes the conflict, because Ishmael is the firstborn.
Yep.
Ishmael is the firstborn. Isaac is not the firstborn. So we'll understand this conflict actually will be repeating all over the Bible, that sometimes the firstborn is not the one that is going to inherit everything from their father. Who is going to inherit? The one that is going to fulfill the promise that God made to Abraham. So sometimes in the Bible it says firstborn, but the firstborn is not like we understand it right now. Firstborn will become that one whose the father chooses. Actually, it's an election who you're going to have your firstborn. Actually, you can, if you have 10 kids, you will choose one, and that one will become your firstborn. It doesn't make sense in from our perspective, because the firstborn is the one that was born, like Ishmael, right? And so it's the firstborn. It's the oldest one of your sons is the firstborn, but it's like a right. You inherit that right, or translate this right to one person. In this case, it's going to be Isaac. Okay, Isaac is going to be the firstborn of Abraham. In the Bible, you will read it. He will be his firstborn. Actually, if you will go back to the promise in Genesis 22, here it says, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, and it makes an emphasis, your only son, your only son. But it wasn't Abraham's only son. The other son was Ishmael. But it's telling your only son because it's making an emphasis. He's going to be your firstborn. Okay, this is the one that is being chosen. Okay, do you know what happens to Isaac after this event, or when he was about to be sacrificed?
No.
They go down from the hill. They were up in the hill. They go down from the hill, and then Abraham starts looking for a wife for Isaac, and he marries to this lady that it's called Rebecca. I don't know in English. That's Rebecca, right? Rebecca. He marries to Rebecca, who was very beautiful, says the Bible. She was very beautiful, and gets married to Isaac. And you know what happened? The story will repeat itself. Rebecca wasn't able to conceive. The story repeats itself, right? So Rebecca prays to the Lord, and the Lord says, okay, you will get pregnant. And she becomes pregnant. I don't know if you have heard this part of the story. She becomes pregnant, and she knows that she has two sons right there. They are twins. And they start fighting inside her. They start fighting with each other. And actually she prays again to the Lord and says, Lord, what is happening with me? I have so many pains, and I'm hurting because these two boys inside me are just fighting all the time. And the Lord says, yeah, that's because the younger one will be over your older one. Okay. So the secondborn will be over your firstborn. And so when Rebecca gives birth to these twins, the very first one that comes out, his name is Esaf. I don't know in English, yeah, it's Esau. Esau, right? I don't know how to pronounce it in English. Esau,
Sounds good to me.
I don't know. This is the one that comes first, but he's also not going to be the firstborn. This is the one that first came out, but this is not going to be named the firstborn. He will not have the right to inherit. Esau, the name Esau, means translate as the one that it's doing, always doing something, no? Like now, a lot of people is always doing something. They cannot rest. They cannot even rest one day because they have to do. That will be said in Hebrew. That will be called Esau. Esau, you're always doing something. You cannot stop. You will do always something. And there's a time where Esau, his brother, was making a soup of lentils, and the lentils were red color. And it also says in the Bible that his hair was red of this Esau. So that's why it's called the red. The red in Hebrew is called Edom. Edom. So when sometimes in the Bible says Edom, it's saying about the same person, Esau. So Esau and Edom is the same person, okay? Because Edom is red or Esau, the one that is always doing. This is the one that comes first from the belly of Rebecca, and the second one, when the second one was coming out, the thing that comes out first is his hand, and he grabs the nail of his brother that was already out. So that's why this second brother, second twin, is called Jacob. Jacob translates as the one that grabs the nail, because that's what he did right away when going out from the womb of his mother. He grabbed the nail of his brother. And this is also a Hebrew expression. I don't know, maybe you've dealt sometime with someone that it's always looking for a way to make us harm, no? To make you harm. There are some people that they look like just evil people that they're just looking for a way to just go around you or trick you or for you to fail. I don't know, there's an English expression for that, right? These people they just wants to make you trip all the time, just sticking their foot where it doesn't belong. So that would be the understanding of Jacob. Jacob is the one that grabs the heel. It doesn't let you go. It's always looking for a way to make you trip. Okay, that's the understanding of the word Jacob. And Jacob, when the event of this soup of lentils was happening with his brother Esau was very hungry, and he told Jacob, "Hey, give me some of that soup that you are making, that red soup of lentils, give me some." And Jacob says, "Okay, I will give you one plate of these lentils if you give me your rights of firstborn, if you allow me to inherit everything from our father." And you know what Esau says? Says, "Okay, from one soup of lentils, I will give you all my inheritance from our father." So Jacob, he was like just grasping the nail of Esau again. And at the end of the life of Isaac, his father, he also tricks his father to make him think, because he was blind already. Isaac was blind at the end of his life. And he tricked his father to think that Jacob was Esau. He actually, I don't know if you have read this passage or ever heard of it. Do you
Yeah, I've
remember?
read of it.
that he grabs some skins of some animals and goes with his father and touch me and smell me. I'm Esau, but he was Jacob. And Isaac, okay, he says his blessing to Jacob, thinking that he was Esau, and he inherits everything to Jacob instead of Esau. And Esau becomes very mad and he tries to kill Jacob. You've heard this part of the story too. So here we have to understand one other concept from the Hebrew perspective. Our words. Because sometimes, I don't know if it didn't make any sense to you, when Esau comes to Isaac and says, hey, I'm here for my blessing, meaning the inheritance of all his belongings. And Isaac says, oh, I already blessed your brother. Wasn't it easy for Isaac to say, oh, well, he just tricked me. Let me give you that blessing to you now. Because it was just out of his word, right? Out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
From the Hebrew perspective, every word that comes out from your mouth exists, is a thing, is something that cannot be undone. That's why the Bible also says in a lot of passages in the Old Testament and New Testament, says, watch out what comes out from your mouth. Mm-hmm. Because your words exist as an object, as a real object. So that's why Isaac cannot bless or undo his blessing for Jacob. He cannot undo that because it already came out of his mouth. So it has to be, it is an existing thing, an eternal thing. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, makes sense.
Okay. So we will just keep the story. We're talking about the same family. No, remember, the whole Bible goes around this family, and the fulfillment of the promise. Okay, we're looking on the promise. So right now we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob runs away from his house, from his home, and goes back to Iraq. In the Bible says Padan Aram. He goes back to Padan Aram, and I don't know if you have read this passage about Jacob and Rachel.
Who?
Rachel, who
Rachel?
will become his. Yeah, Rachel. No, have you heard of Rachel?
I've heard of Rachel, but not.
Okay, Jacob runs away from his home, goes to Iraq or Padan Aram in the Bible, and he finds a relative who is Rachel. Rachel was a shepherd. He was a shepherd. She was a shepherd of sheep, of sheep, and she comes, and Jacob grabs the stone above a well of water, and kisses right there Rachel without any other further questions or relation. He kisses Rachel and says, oh, bring me to your father so I can ask him to marry you. Okay, so they go to the father. The father of Rachel was Laban, and he marries. He says, okay, oh, you are my relative. You are from Abraham. Yeah, we are related to Abraham. So I know who you are. And okay, yes, you can marry to my daughter if you work for me 7 years. Because you don't have anything else to offer. So work for me 7 years, then you can marry to my daughter. Is that okay with you? And Abraham was so in love with Rachel that he actually marries Rachel. He wants to marry Rachel, and he says, yes, I will work for you 7 years in order to marry to your daughter. And he was a very good worker and works for the full 7 years. And when the 7 years passed, there was this big, it's called banquet, a big party, and everyone is there, and everyone is meeting, and they, oh yes, hooray for the new couple, and he marries to the daughter of Laban, and he finds out that he has married to his older daughter, who was Leah. Have you heard this story before?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so he marries to Leah, and he goes to Laban and says, hey, why did you marry with your older daughter? And he says, oh, I'm sorry, because the older daughter cannot get married, the younger cannot get married before the older one, because this is not how we used to. So you have to marry to my, no, you are already married to my older daughter. And he says, no, I want to marry Rachel. I told you to marry Rachel. And he goes, okay, work for me another 7 years, and you can marry to my daughter Rachel. And he actually says yes. And he works for another 7 years to get married to Rachel. After that, he has kids with Leah and with Rachel. But there's a time when Jacob has an encounter with a man. In the Bible says he's a man, and the man changes his name of Jacob, changes the name of Jacob, and the name of Jacob is changed. And we have to understand the change of a name means that he's also changing his character. He's also changing his fame. He's changing his honor. That's why it's very important, the change of name. And he goes from Jacob to Israel. Israel and Jacob is the same person, although it doesn't have the same name. It doesn't have the same fame or honor or character or personality. Do you know what the name Israel means?
No.
Okay, so this is another name that ends on El, El, from Elohim. So it's something of Elohim. And Yisra. Yisra in Hebrew is understood as the one that conquers with God. The one that conquers with God. Or a prince of God. Also, it can be understood as a prince of God, but implying that if you are a prince, there's a king above you. Okay, so you are governed by God. Israel is also understood as the one that is governed by God, by Elohim. Okay, that's the main Israel. So it changes completely, and from this time on, you can see Jacob is no longer the old Jacob. It's a new Jacob. Is now called Israel, the one that is governed by God, the one that conquers with God. Okay, so far so good? Okay. So let's go back a little bit to Israel. Okay, so we'll continue here on Israel because he's going to have a lot of offspring. Okay, so we start looking to the fulfillment of the promise that God made to Abraham, the one that God sworn by himself. So let's review everything now. So we have this history of a family that starts with two older people that could not conceive, but later on they conceive. They have this firstborn, which is Isaac. Isaac got married to Rebecca. They also couldn't conceive, so they have twins, only twins, Esau and Jacob. And Jacob, now Israel, is going to have a lot of kids, lots of kids. So here they are, the 12 kids of the 12 sons of Israel or Jacob. Have you heard of these 12 sons of Jacob?
Would they be considered the 12 tribes type of thing?
Yes, actually, these are considered the 12 tribes of Israel. You've heard of that concept, right? 12 tribes of Israel. They come of the 12 sons of Israel. And well, the story is very messed up. You can just read it in Genesis chapter 29, I think. Because it's all messed up. The first four are from his first wife, Leah. So Reuben, Shimeon, Levi, and Judah. Those are the first sons of the first wife, Leah. Then Rachel, the story repeats itself again. Rachel could not conceive. Rachel could not conceive. But he, as Sarah, gives his maid to Jacob. And you know, Jacob, poor little Jacob, was so obedient to Rachel, his wife, and he was having sexual relationships with her maid, and no, the maid becomes pregnant twice. So the next two sons are from the maid of Rachel, and these are Dan and Naphtali. Dan and Naphtali are from the maid of Rachel. Leah cannot become pregnant again, and because of what Rachel did with his maid, he also offers her maid to Jacob. And as Jacob, you have to have at least two sons with my maid. And these are the two others, the two next sons, with are Gad and Asher. Gad and Asher are from the maid of Leah. Then Leah becomes pregnant again. Leah becomes pregnant again and has other two sons, which are Ishkar and Zebulun. And also a daughter which is Dinah, which is right here in between. But Dinah has a very tragic history also. We don't know what happened with her. But after all these sons, after all these years, and after all this, can you imagine the drama in the family? Rachel competing with Leah for the love of Jacob, Jacob sleeping with one, sleeping with the other one, sleeping with the maid of one, sleeping with the other maid, and having lots of kids. Can you imagine having that much kids? It could be very messed up nowadays. But finally, you can see some rivalry between Rachel and Leah all the time. You can see this rivalry. But eventually, Rachel says to the Lord, okay, I'm done. Do with me whatever you want. And that's when the Lord says, okay, you will become pregnant. And the son that comes pregnant from Rachel is Joseph. And this is going to, the book of Genesis spends a lot of chapters talking about Joseph. Joseph the dreamer, remember? I know you heard of him before, right? Have you heard of Joseph before?
Yes.
Joseph, no, the one the son that had dreams and that comes to Egypt. We'll speak of him a little bit, okay? And the last son is also a son of Rachel, Benjamin. And when Rachel was giving birth to Benjamin, Rachel dies. So from these 12 sons of Jacob or Israel, who becomes the firstborn?
Yes, whoever he assigned.
So the one that is chosen from Jacob to be the firstborn is Joseph. Joseph becomes the firstborn and the one that is going to fulfill the promise that God made to Abraham. And that the one that is going to inherit all the belongings of his father. Well, right now, let me tell you that by the time Joseph is born, Jacob was, nowadays, he would be a billionaire. So his belongings were a lot of sheep, a lot of cows, a lot of camels, a lot of servants. He was billionaire. So the inheritance was to be, it was the other brothers, mostly Reuben. He says, hey, wait a minute. I'm the firstborn for the first wife, so I should be the one that should inherit everything. Why are you, Joseph, just making some maybe he was like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10. at least 10 years older than Joseph. At least 10 years, maybe 10 to 20 years older than Joseph. So all the brothers support Reuben in his quest for inherit everything from his father. But his father, because Joseph was the son of Rachel, the one that he actually loved, he becomes the firstborn. So Joseph, the word Joseph, going back to the names, Joseph means the one that is going to add up, that is the one that is going to sum. So Joseph is going to add a lot of people. I don't know. Do you remember what happens with Joseph?
From what I recollect, his brothers sold him into slavery.
Mm-hmm. This passage, you remember that he come. Actually, Jacob sends Joseph to watch for his brothers. He says, your brothers are not doing good. I don't know if they are good shepherds. Can you go out and look what they are doing? And here comes Joseph. He looks like very innocent. And they look for the brothers and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing that with the sheep of my father? And they just put him into a dry well. Do you remember a dry well? They put them there and they start fighting. Some of the brothers says, hey, we should kill him. We should kill Joseph. And they say, no, we cannot kill him. He's our brother. He's our own blood. We cannot kill Joseph. Anyway, there's this battle outside, and Judah is the one that says, hey, we cannot kill him, but we can sell him. Let's sell our brother to these Ishmaelites, descendants of Ishmael, that are passing by, and they have slaves. So they sell Joseph to Ishmael. Tribe of Ishmaelite. Ishmaelite is descendants of Ishmael. And he goes to Egypt. You remember this part? He sold as a slave. He goes to Egypt. But try to imagine what is the lie that they have to tell to Jacob about his brother. And actually, it says that Joseph had this robe, right? This kind of robe that was made a very colorful robe. And they just tear up this robe and they just kill a sheep, and the blood they spread it on his robe and go with the father and says, okay, our brother, we didn't see our brother, we just saw this, we are just assuming that a lion or some beast attacked him and he's dead. We didn't see our brother. So try to imagine the picture and the lie that these other 10 brothers, because Benjamin wasn't there, the other 10 brothers are telling to his own father, Jacob. And imagine the grief that Jacob had because of his firstborn, the firstborn of the woman that he actually loved, is now dead. So he grieves for a lot of time. And going back to Joseph goes to Egypt. Maybe you've heard of this story. Joseph goes to Egypt, and his owner, whose name was Potiphar, he sees that this slave is not any regular slave. He sees that this slave has some skills that he can use to his advantage, and that he's very smart. So he puts him as how do you say mayordomo? I don't know, mayordomo. In Spanish.
Well, he put him in charge of the house, didn't he?
He put him in charge of his whole house, and the wife of Potiphar comes in love with Joseph. You remember? And no, a jealous woman is a very dangerous woman. And the woman says, hey, can you become naked? And Joseph says no. And Joseph runs away from her, and she grabs part of his clothing of Joseph, and she starts screaming, no, oh, he raped me, catch him, he's a felon. So Joseph ends up in the jail. And also in the jail, they see that he's not any slave. He's not like any other slave. And they put him in charge of the prisoners, of high rank prisoners. And there comes the story of the bread maker and the wine servant of the Pharaoh. Do you remember this part of the story? That
No.
they both have a dream. The bread maker and the wine servant of the Pharaoh are in jail, and they both have a dream. And they just start. So one day they come very worried. Joseph comes and, hey, why are you worried? Oh, because we are in jail and we had a dream and we don't know what the dream means. And Joseph said, well, if you tell me your dream, I will ask Elohim and ask for the interpretation of your dream. And they tell him the dream, the dream that the bread maker had. The interpretation of the dream was that he was going to find guilty. They don't know. They don't say about what. He will be found guilty, and he will be put to death by the Pharaoh. And the wine servant, his dream, the interpretation of his dream is that he was to be declared innocent, and he was going to be out of jail in 3 days. All this is going to happen in 3 days. And actually, the interpretation of Joseph was correct. The bread maker was found guilty, and he was put to death. And the wine servant was found innocent, and he came back to the Pharaoh's presence. When he was going out of jail, Joseph says to this wine servant, please talk to the Pharaoh about me, that I haven't done anything, that I'm innocent. And the wine servant says, oh yes, for sure. I will just tell the Pharaoh that you're here in jail and you're innocent. He makes this promise, but also the wine servant doesn't fulfill this promise. He didn't speak with the Pharaoh about Joseph or anything. You haven't heard this part of the story, right? Maybe just bits and pieces?
Yes.
Okay. So
then
Pharaoh
has a dream.
Exactly. Pharaoh has a dream, and he asks for everyone, hey, sorcerers, prophets, everyone, please let me know what these dreams, the interpretation of this dream. And nobody can interpret the Pharaoh's dream, but the wine servant remembers. Hey, Pharaoh, well, let me just speak to you about this Hebrew slave that I found in prison. He interpreted my dream, and it was true. And the Pharaoh said, bring this slave to me. Bring this slave so he can interpret my dream. And you remember the dream, right? The dream was about 7 cows, very beautiful cows and fat cows that come out from the Nile River. And behind them, 7 ugly cows that actually bite and eat the good cows. That was the first part of the dream. And the second dream, because he had 2 dreams, the second dream was that 7 wheat, how do you say,
Years?
shears of wheat were growing, and other 7 very ugly ones, and actually they bite and eat the good ones. So Pharaoh tells this dream to Joseph, and Joseph said, let me ask our God for interpretation. And the interpretation, he interprets the dream of the Pharaoh, and he says, the dreams is just one dream, not 2 dreams, it's just one dream. It has the same meaning. The meaning is that in this land of Egypt, there will be 7 years of prosperity and abundance. And the second part of the dream is that there will be another 7 years of famine and hunger, and everything just will go. So he will, this is, maybe you've heard of this story before, but the impact of this story is that right now we are going to see a miracle with Joseph. Because from being a Hebrew and slave, the Pharaoh says, your interpretation is right, and I'm going to name you governor of the whole land of Egypt. Nobody else will have more authority than you, just me, the Pharaoh. So everyone listen, you're all going to do whatever Joseph tells you. So Joseph, actually, his name in Egypt is changed from Joseph to Safnat Paneah. Safnat Paneah. Safnat Paneah can be translated into the one that gives breath. The one that gives breath. So Joseph becomes governor of the whole land of Egypt. Nobody else had more authority just by the Pharaoh. But this is a miracle. Imagine that, we Mexicans are not very liked in the US. So imagine that a Mexican comes out of prison to speak with the President of the United States, and the President of the United States, because of the interpretation of a dream, makes this Mexican prisoner the Vice President of US. This is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. But it's happening here in Egypt. Egypt, no, in that time was the most powerful country in the whole earth. And this Pharaoh is naming a slave, a prisoner of a different country, a Hebrew. He's making him governor of the whole land of Egypt. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is a miracle right now. We are seeing the hand of God directly on the life of Joseph. So there in Egypt, Joseph makes a plan. He starts collecting for the whole 7 years. He starts collecting more grains, all the grains that were produced in Egypt, so they can last for the 7 years of famine. Okay, so there was 7 years of abundance as the dream went, and 7 years of famine. And the whole land of Egypt and the lands around it become very hungry. And this hunger goes all the way to the land of Canaan. Canaan was, Canaan or Canaan. How do you say? How do you spell that? Canaan. Are you familiar with the word Canaan?
Canaan?
Yeah, the land where Abraham was, the land that was promised to God, from God to Abraham. It's Canaan? Yeah, right? Yeah, Canaan. So the same in English. Sometimes the names in English I don't remember. Okay, so the hunger comes all the way to Canaan, and the sons of Jacob are sent to Egypt to go for grains. And there's another conflict here. Because when he was young, Joseph had a dream where he saw these 10 shears of wheat that were bending over him. Do you remember the dreams of Joseph? He had two dreams. In the first dream, he saw 11 shears of wheat bending towards him. And the brothers say, oh, come on. You're saying that our 11 brothers are going to bend over you? That will never happen. That was his first dream. And in the other dream, he saw the sun, the moon, and 11 more planets that were just worshiping him. And he tells his brothers tells the dream, and so they say, so you're saying that all your brothers and also your mother and your father are going to worship you? You must be crazy. That's why they hated him so much. But these dreams comes true, because when the hunger comes to Canaan, Jacob's sons are sent to Egypt for wheat, for grains. And Joseph, actually, you can see here in the picture, Joseph, he didn't look anymore like a Hebrew. He looked more like an Egyptian. So when their brothers come, he sees his brothers, and the brothers just bend down to him, asking for grains, asking for wheat. and he recognizes them, but he's speaking through an interpreter. He was speaking in Egyptian, and says to his brothers, "No, have you heard this part of the story? No, that's Genesis about 40 maybe." Uh, he starts asking, where through the interpreter, he starts asking, "Where are you from?" And they say, "We come from Canaan." "Hey, you look just like spies." And they say, "No, sir, we are no spies. We are just your servants. We're just here for food." And Joseph, through the interpreter, says, "Okay, I don't trust you. There's more of you. You are not the only ones. There's a missing brother," because Benjamin wasn't there. They say, "Okay, you have one missing brother." And they say, "Oh, how does he know that we have a brother?" No? And so they say, "Okay, sell to them the grains that they are asking for, and they can leave. But their money is put back into the bags of the grains, their money that they paid for the grain." So they go back, and when they arrive to Jacob's home, they open up the bags and they see the food, but they also see their money. And they say, "Oh no, we didn't pay for anything. They put back the money inside our bags." So Jacob says, "Okay, go back again and bring some more food, pay for the one that you didn't pay, and bring some presents to the governor of Egypt," which was Joseph. So they go back and they say, "Hey, you are here again. You are spies, aren't you?" And they say, "No, we are not spies. We're here for more food, and we are paying the other food that you gave us, that we didn't pay, and we are paying you and bring you some presents." And they say, "Okay, I know you have a brother. If you don't bring me your brother, you will all be put into jail." And they say, "Just send one for your brother, for your missing brother." And they say, "No, sir, we cannot bring our brother. Our brother Benjamin is in charge of our father Jacob, and he cannot come." "Well, if he doesn't come, then you are going all to jail." So they make this agreement that only Judah is going to stay in Egypt, while the others go for Benjamin. Imagine when they arrive with Jacob, that they have to ask permission for Jacob so Benjamin can go with them, because the other brother, Judah, is in jail of Egypt because they are thinking that they are spies. This is a long story. Sorry if I'm not expressing it correctly, but you can read it later. But it's a very important story because it's the whole story of what is going to happen with the 12 tribes. This is happening with the 12 tribes, and Joseph, because Joseph is also predecessor or a figure of what is Christ to be going to. Okay, how Christ is going to be like. So Joseph is an example of Christ, and the 12 tribes going back and forth. So that's why this story is very important. So they finally go with Jacob, and they say, "Please, Dad, give us Benjamin so we can bring him to Egypt, so Judah can come out of jail." So eventually Jacob says, "Okay, bring your brother Benjamin." And when they arrive to Egypt again with Benjamin, Joseph, the brothers still don't know that he's Joseph, his brother, and he says, "Bring them all to my house. Bring the 11 brothers, bring them to my house." And in the house, Joseph asks for all the servants to go out of the house while he is there with his 11 brothers, and he starts crying out loud, and he takes off his garments, and he says, "Hey, I am your brother Joseph. I am the one that you sold as a slave some years ago, but I forgive you." Of course, the brothers become like, "Oh, he's right now he's the governor of Egypt. He can put us in jail right now, and he could kill us." The way that they find out that this was he knew a lot about them is because Joseph sits all of them in their as the order of their birth. Okay, he places sits them in the table, as this order that we have right here and the slide. So, uh, it, so he says, well, tell me news about my father. Is my father still alive? What happened to him? And they say, yes, he's still alive. Well, he says, here we are in Egypt. I don't have any troubles here. Just bring my father, bring everyone, bring your families, bring your wives, bring everyone here to Egypt. We can live here. And living here, we won't pass any hunger. We won't be hungry anymore. Bring my father, bring everyone. So just here are these chariots, these horses, these everything. Go for my father and bring these presents to him. I'm sending these presents to him. So try to picture this for a moment. These 11 brothers, well, at least 10 of them, told a lie to their father about the destiny of Joseph. When they arrive with all these presents, with all these things, and say, where are you coming from? Where do you bring all these presents from? They say, oh, well, it happens that, our brother ended up in Egypt and he's no longer there. So Jacob is admired of his brother, his son. For him, he was dead, and he's recovering his death. That he assumed that he was dead. By this time, Joseph also got married, and he had two sons. And the story kind of repeats itself. These two sons are from an Egyptian, and actually they were born in Egypt. And his firstborn his name is Menashe, or Manasseh or Menashe. This is very important. Remember, they were from a Hebrew father, born an Egyptian mother, and they were born in Egypt. So they were considered Egyptians. Menashe. This is the other one, Menashe. The word Menashe translates like God has made me forget. This is the one that makes me forget. Very understandable, because being a slave, being in jail all this time, maybe angry with their brothers, grieving for their father, not knowing anything about his other brother. When he gets married, becomes the governor of Egypt, and he has his firstborn. This is the one that makes me forget everything else. Menashe, that's the word, Menashe. And the second born of Joseph, his name is Ephraim. And the word Ephraim can be translated as fruitful or double fruit, very fruitful. So this one is the one that is going to bring a lot of fruits. And when Jacob, now Israel, comes to Egypt and he sees his son Joseph, he says, you are the one that I lost. But now I see you, and you are alive, and not only alive, you have two sons. So I lost one, but I recovered two more sons. And Jacob understands that Joseph has a lot of duties as a governor of Egypt, and he cannot come back to the family, but he says, I will adopt your sons as my sons. They will not be my grandsons, they will be my sons. And not only sons, but I will name Ephraim as the firstborn. Ephraim will become the firstborn of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Jacob makes this gesture that is very interesting here in the Bible. when he's about to die, he says to Joseph and to the 11 brothers, says, come to me because I'm going to give you your blessings. And when Joseph comes, the blessing from the Bible, in the Hebrew perspective, the blessing, the one that is going to be blessed the more, is the one that you put your right hand in top of their head. Your right hand in top of their head, that means that you're going to be named the firstborn. So Joseph didn't know and put his older son Manasseh. He puts him in his right side of Jacob and puts Ephraim in his left side, because he assumed that this was going to be the blessing. But Jacob does this gesture of crossing his hands like this, and he puts his right hand in top of Ephraim's head. And actually, in that moment, Joseph uncrosses the hands of his father and says, Father, you are wrong. This is the oldest one, the one that I'm putting in your right side. And he says, Jacob says, no, this is the right way. The younger one will be blessed over the older one. And this is the gesture that Jacob makes. Now Israel crossing his hands and blessing to the youngest of the sons of Joseph, making him the firstborn of the 12 tribes of Israel. This gives origin to one symbol that you might have seen before, which is this one. This symbol right now, maybe you've heard as a bumper sticker, or maybe some churches, but maybe you just have to twist your head a little bit. The origin of this symbol is known as the crossing of the hands of Jacob to bless Ephraim. A lot of people that use this symbol don't actually know where it comes from. You can just dig deeper to investigate about this. But when a Hebrew person, now Jews are the only ones that come from Judah, they see the symbol and they know that is the crossing of Jacob's hands in order to bless Ephraim over all the other 12 tribes. For a Christian means a different thing, but it comes from this. Okay.
Yeah, they turn it sideways. They make it a symbol of fish, and they put Jesus in there.
Exactly. But the origin of this symbol is this. Okay, it's a Bible symbol, and you can find it in multiple archaeological sites. You can find this symbol, and it means this. The blessing of Jacob for Ephraim. Okay, so the descendants from these 12 sons of Jacob will become the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel. Are we speaking about the same family? Yes, this is the same family. And the whole Bible will speak what will happen to these 12 tribes. So going back a little bit, so this story began with two elderly people that could not conceive. And these two persons became a family, a small family of just one son, Isaac. Isaac has another family. And now with Jacob, the family grows a lot more. So now we can say is the tribe of Israel. The tribe of Israel that actually is split into 12 tribes. So the 12 tribes are just one people, the people of Israel. All of them can also be called Hebrews. They are all Hebrews. Or they can be called the tribe of Israel. And right now they are going to Egypt. And right there in Egypt, they are just going to multiplicate a lot as the promise goes. As the promise that God made to Abraham, that his descendants will be just as numerous as the stars of the sky and as the sand of the seashore. Okay, so the whole Bible, even in the New Testament, is about this, the 12 tribes of Israel and the fulfillment of the promise that God's sworn by himself. Okay, so far, any questions?
No.
Okay, so study your notes The recording, I will share with you the recording, so you can just go back and, again to the recording, because next class we are going to start with a small test about what we have seen here. Okay, so you have just one full week to just have some, you can grab the concept, the names, maybe the names of the tribes. Okay, a small test, 5-question test, and just to like a refreshing quiz. Okay, so far so good.
Sounds good.
Okay, Randy, so we are going to leave it there. Let me just stop sharing the slides and just grab your notes. Just maybe watch the recording again throughout the week if you're able to, and see you next Sunday. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So see you in a week. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Blessings. Blessings for you.